Welcome to Remarkable Retail Podcast, Season 5, our season finale, Episode 24, presented by Market Dial. I'm Michael LeBlanc.
And I'm Steve Dennis.
Well, Steve, last episode we celebrated our 100th regular season episode milestone. This episode, a wrap on Season 5, and we're already hard at work on Season 6.
It's been a very interesting season, and I think there'll be a lot more going on. We're going to have a little bit of a break, but we will be back, I believe, January 17th is our plan. And
That's right.
Looking forward to reloading.
Yeah, we'll be recording our news right on the floor of the big NRF show, actually. So we'll be we'll have our collective hand on the collective pulse of retail. Our very special guest to close out this season is Satish Malhotra, the Container Store CEO and president.
Yeah, we've been really lucky, as we talked about last episode, to get quite a few CEOs of really interesting companies. And I know that the Container Store will not be known to everybody because they are just in the U.S., but I think they're one of the most interesting stories. I was thinking about this before we came on air. I've been a Container Store customer for probably at least 20 years. I used to shop at their Northbrook, Illinois store when I lived in Chicago, and it's been fun to see their evolution. And as listeners will hear, they have some pretty aggressive growth plans. And Satish is a very interesting guy. Was the head of retail and had a bunch of other jobs at Sephora and did extremely well there. And now he's combining that talent with the great team at Container Store to take things to the next level. So great interview.
A reminder to all the listeners, you and I will be on stage at the NRF show on Monday, January 16th for a session with one of Satish's top executives, Gretchen Gantz, talking about what it takes to be remarkable, presented by our friends at Market Dial.
Yeah, it's going to be a fun event. We'll just mention it quickly. I think we're starting at 12:30 on Monday, and it's going to be a extravaganza of a little bit of my talking, a little bit of Q&A, a little bit of Gretchen sharing what the Container Store is up to. So very fast-paced, and we're also going to be giving out free copies of my book, Remarkable Retail. So get there early. Quantities are limited. And then right after the talk, we will be over in the Market Dial booth, and I will be signing copies. So if you get your copy at NRF, great. If you bring your own copy, I'll be happy to sign that as well. So see everybody in New York.
Speaking of taking the show on the road, World Retail Congress in Barcelona, Spain, April 25th and 27th. We'll be there together. I'm very excited. It's my first time in Spain. Well,
you're going to love it. Barcelona is one of my favorite cities. And yes, I will be speaking at that event along with plenty of other people you've heard of. We'll give more details in the new season, but we'll also be getting a few of those folks on the mic.
Let's get to the news. So U.S. Census Bureau reports some sales, lots of conversations back and forth, as it is always the case, month over month, year over year, adjusted dollars, seasonally adjusted dollars. I lost track. So what did you think anyway? If you step back and look at the numbers that came out, what was your kind of net on what we saw?
Well, I think what the numbers show pretty clearly is that sales are decelerating. There still was a pretty significant year-over-year increase. And, of course, that varies depending on the category. A fair amount of that was driven by gasoline sales and driven by grocery, which are subject to higher than average inflation. So once again, you have to parse out the inflationary impact. But the consumer is still spending. My guess is this report really reflects, though, a decrease or at least a pretty flat perspective on transactions. So, but I think the overall picture is definitely an economy that is slowing and consumers being a bit more cautious. We also had some commentary from, because there was a big investor conference, and Macy's CEO and Nordstrom CEO and Walmart CEO were all making comments, and most of their comments were that they were seeing a slowdown in sales. So storm clouds on the horizon, I guess.
Let's talk about Amazon for a sec. They announced something I've never seen them do before, kind of a last-minute holiday sale. What do you make of that?
Desperation. Yeah, it was a bit of a surprise, kind of another Prime event or whatever. They didn't call it that. And apparently
Optimus Prime or Festivus Prime, maybe they call it Festivus
Prime. Oh, I like that, Festivus Prime.
The tradition of Festivus begins with the airing of grievances. I got a lot of problems with you people.
We can air the grievances, and I've got many, so we might have to do an extended cut.
A bonus episode. Bonus episode. Steve's grievances.
But they added this extra event, and I do think it is reflective of weak sales, or at least pockets of inventory that they're trying to clear out. My understanding was a lot of it was focused on their own private brands.
Oh, that's interesting. Get yourself an Alexa device at a real nice discount, basically.
That's interesting. Again, I think it speaks to some real slowdown we've seen in spending and pockets of inventory. One thing I was going to say, which is a little bit of a digression perhaps, but I think the most interesting week of the whole holiday season is actually the week after Christmas. With all the discussion on Black Friday, Cyber Week, Super Saturday, all this kind of stuff, they are important. But the week after Christmas to me has always been interesting because, number one, since gift cards have become so important, which is 20 plus years now, I guess, a lot of that redemption happens right after Christmas. So you don't really know how you've done in terms of moving product till you get post the Christmas holiday. The second thing is that's also when retailers have to kind of go back. I don't know if this was your experience, but I certainly know it at Sears and at Neiman's and some other places. It's like, well, okay, we weren't able to take advantage of the gift occasion. So where are we on inventory? Where do we need to get more aggressive about moving through things that are seasonal, really starting to think about bringing in spring goods? And so there can be a lot of activity and a lot of markdown or a lot of margin opportunities start to get sorted out in that week or two right after the holidays. So I don't think we really know where retail is sorting out for the holiday season until we're into January.
Yeah, it's a big event here in Canada and the UK. We call it Boxing Day. It is sometimes the next day, sometimes the day after, but it's really Boxing Day week is what we call it. It's a week, basically. And you're absolutely right. A lot of retailers plan for it, right? They do bring in special buys because it's one of the top 3 retail events of the year, and it's also a time for them to true up their inventory, make sure they try and go clean into 2023. Let's go to the opposite end of that scale to the graveyard. Sears hometown. Let's talk about Sears hometown.
Well, one of the things in talking about Sears, at least is the way most of us know it, and of course I worked there long ago, is Sears ended up being there's the real estate holding company, Seritage, I think it's called. There's Sears Hometown, which was spun off. So when we're talking about Sears, there's actually a bunch of different pieces that are still out there. Well, Sears Hometown, which were these smaller home-focused stores, they filed for bankruptcy this week. So it's hard to believe that there's still any pieces of Sears that are still around.
That was my response. It's still there. It still exists. I mean,
it is like, what is it, Jason? Jason keeps
he just pops back up again with that
pops back up again. So I keep getting, even though I worked at Sears, you'd think I would be a little bit more familiar with all these things, and I'm like, wait, Sears Hometown still exists.
Let's talk about last couple of things. H&M. I want to talk about both H&M just to kind of round out our discussion around some sales. So they got some interesting news. What did you think about what's going on at H&M?
A couple of things were interesting there. H&M reported essentially flat sales, and that sent their stock down, though the stock market's been so crazy the last few days. It's kind of hard to sort out how much of that is particular to H&M versus just generally what's going on with retail in the market more broadly. But I think it speaks to some of the challenges in apparel more broadly. Just about every apparel retailer that's reported over the last quarter really hasn't shown much success. But one of the things I thought was interesting, and I decided to look at what H&M's stock performance has been over the past 5 years. And I was surprised to learn that the stock has gone nowhere. It's basically flat or down to where it was 5 years ago. And I kind of had it in my head that H&M was way more successful. And, stock performance is not the only measure of success, certainly. But we talk about the growth in fast fashion, and some of the issues around fast fashion as well from a sustainability viewpoint. I just guessed, that I would have guessed that they had been consistently more successful because they have been growing nicely, but they're not. That performance is not getting rewarded. But they seem to be hitting even more headwinds than they've been experiencing of late.
Let's shift gears a little bit. Let's talk about Walmart and how they're leaning into omni-channel fulfillment at the same time. Nordstrom's going in the opposite direction. They're slowing in-store fulfillment. What's going on there?
Well, I think the Walmart story, there was more discussion about it, I guess, because Doug McMillon was presenting at an investor conference, but they were really talking about what we continue to see is really this, hybridization or blurring of the lines between physical and digital. So just like we had the episode with Nancy King from Target, and we've talked multiple times about how stores are being used to fulfill e-commerce orders. Walmart is essentially, best as I could tell, following the same strategy. To tie it a little bit to Nordstrom's news, so this was specific to Nordstrom Rack. The Nordstrom Rack, the off-price concept, had been doing buy online, pick up in store, as the rest of Nordstrom has been doing. And they announced that they were slowing things down, basically putting a pause on those orders because they were having a hard time doing it well.
A lot of cancellations, I think I read too, right?
Yeah, well, one of the things that's of course true about the off-price market is you have a certain percentage of your assortment that is not, planogrammed, is not consistent across the whole chain. And so it's not as easy to know what inventory you have in the store. That's the first part. The second part is, well, you may know that you have it, but you're not exactly sure where it is because you don't have as, structured sections and shelves and things like that. So apparently they were having a lot of issues with customers. I mean, it's, not a great customer experience to say, order online, pick up in store, come to the store, and then the sales associate can't find it. So I think this does speak to some of the pressures, kind of tying it back to Walmart. It's a big deal for retailers to figure out how to do this omni-channel fulfillment well. And it puts a lot more pressure not only on inventory visibility, but also I think it's tied to some of the labor issues, right? Because omni-channel fulfillment, there's not that much
labor intensive
robotics right now. Yeah, it can be quite labor intensive. And given that people are having a hard time finding employees and keeping them and training them and all that kind of stuff, you kind of have this confluence of growth and popularity with difficulty hiring people. And I think that's starting to smash together. So what Walmart's talking about is, making some of those investments to be able to scale that and operate it more consistently. Nordstrom's having to tap the brakes because they haven't figured out how to do it. And again, that's a particular challenge when you're talking about the off-price market.
Well, a good round out for the end of the year. Let's leave it there. Happy holidays to everyone. Happy Festivus for those who, of course,
for those who celebrate.
For those who celebrate, and once again, keep an eye out for the bonus episode coming out on the 23rd with your grievances. So we'll record that just after this. All right, let's hear from our sponsor, MarketDial. MarketDial is an easy-to-use testing platform and emboldens great decisions, leading to reliable, scalable results. With MarketDial, you can be confident in the outcome of your in-store pilot initiatives before rolling them out across your fleet. In a challenging retail climate of supply chain disruption, labor shortages, and dynamic customer behavior, the need for reliable insights has never been greater. Validate your remarkable ideas with MarketDial's in-store testing solution. The proof is in the testing. Learn more at marketdial.com. That's marketdial.com. Satish, welcome to Remarkable Retail Podcast. How are you doing this morning?
I'm doing great. Thank you for having me.
Well, fantastic. Thanks so much for joining us. Where are we finding you today? I think you're located in Dallas. Is that right?
That is correct. I came over here almost about a year and 9 months ago from San Francisco, California, and have loved every minute of being in Dallas.
Wow, fantastic. And that gets us into a bit of your personal professional journey about what you were doing there. But let's start there. Let's jump in there.
Sure. So my background, I would say, is a bit unique in that I was born and raised in London, England, and then came over to the US really for higher education. I went to UC Berkeley and started off my career actually within finance. So I became a certified public accountant working for PricewaterhouseCoopers. And that was where I thought my career journey would take me, was to be the CFO. And very quickly, I left public accounting and went to private accounting. So I went to work for Sephora in their finance department and had just an unbelievable journey there, being there 21 years. And one of the reasons I actually stayed, I didn't necessarily think I'd be there for that long, but one of the reasons I stayed was because Sephora is just a great company, allowing me to take on new responsibilities in different areas of the business. So not only was I grounded within finance, but I had an opportunity to create the Sephora inside JCPenney business model. I went on to take on responsibilities for technology, for supply chain, and then internationally was able to take on responsibilities for our growth within Canada and Latin America. So it truly gave me a great perspective to understand not only the back of the house, but also the front of the house in terms of how to relate to customers in different environments. I wasn't planning to leave Sephora. I was very happy being in California until this fantastic opportunity came around with the Container Store. And I was familiar with the Container Store earlier on in my career, but honestly wasn't a frequent shopper of the Container Store. I mean, as I was doing my due diligence and looking at the company, I quickly fell in love, quite frankly, because they have an unbelievable culture and almost, fanatics within the business, really passionate employees who really love what they do. And I quickly felt that this was an opportunity where I thought I could take the Container Store to the next level. And so today I am the CEO and president of the Container Store.
You know, it's super interesting. We'd often talk to leaders with backgrounds in merchandising or finance, accounting, or marketing that take on CEO leadership roles. Do you find when you look at issues and opportunities, is that your default? Do you start at the numbers and work your way up, or with a broader lens? How do you examine both opportunities and businesses? Do you reflect back on that at all?
It's a combination of both. I try to use all the skill sets that I have. So if I'm looking at a particular initiative or a project, clearly I'm understanding the impact that it has on the customer experience. But secondarily, then you try to understand how quickly are we able to implement that project or that initiative? Is there a minimum viable proposition that we can go in and test and learn? And that allows us to understand the resource constraints needed to launch that project. And then finally, given my financial background, also looking at the return on investment. And I think that is the balanced perspective I'm able to bring across any initiative or growth strategy we may have, is being able to break it down to those three key components. Oftentimes you may speak with an executive and they get really passionate around a particular project, but they don't really understand what it takes to implement it. And more importantly, what is the ultimate return on investment? Are they doing postmortem analysis to understand, are they hitting the mark or not? And I think that's kind of what I bring to, everyday discussions when we're with our leadership team at the Container Store.
We have an international audience, so not everyone listening might be familiar with the Container Store. Can you give us an overview, a scale, scope, value proposition, who's your customer kind of thing?
Sure, absolutely. So the Container Store, we have about 95 stores in the US, and we are excited about actually our ability to more than double that in the coming years. We're $1 billion in sales and are a public company. The value proposition that we offer is extremely unique. No one really out there does what we do, and that is providing our customers really with an opportunity to transform their lives through the power of organization. So we have close to 10,000 SKUs dedicated to organization and storage for our customers' everyday needs. And that is across every space within the home. That could be your pantry, your garage, your office, your vanity areas that you have. So that's one kind of line of the business that we have. Another line of the business we have are our custom spaces. And that is when we can go in and actually transform a space for you. And that could be your laundry room or your primary closets, your garage, your mudroom, your entertainment space. And that's through both our metal-based systems that we have, that we own completely through Alpha, and our wood-based premium system through Preston, which we also own the manufacturing facility for that as well. And the last piece of the business to kind of bring it full circle in our ecosystem is providing in-home services. And that's both within design. We can come in and actually design spaces for you, but also provide you in-home organizing services where we can not only transform the space and bring you all of the completion products through general merchandise, but actually provide you a system to make sure that you are living in an organized way. And I would say that's critical for you to really be able to fully transform your life through the power of organization.
Getting ready for this, I was reviewing some of your investor presentations and things like that, and I was really struck by the tremendous success you've had and this great momentum, particularly during the past year, 18 months or so, which seems to line up with when you happen to show up. So must be you, but I imagine there's some other people and other things involved. But what have been some of the keys to that success over the past year or so?
I would say one fundamental key has been our relentless focus on our three strategic pillars. Very quickly, early on, I spent a lot of time understanding the DNA of the company and also spending time in the field with our stores, as well as our distribution centers and our vendors to really understand the inherent bones that has made the company successful up until I joined. And for me, it was really to determine where did we want to take the company. And what I was able to put together were our three fundamental pillars, one around deepening our relationship with the customers. And we've been really focused on making sure that we're bringing product that our customers truly love and appreciate, whether it's our sustainable line that we've grown to now 600 SKUs, or our private label line, which is a phenomenal value play with great quality and durable products at a great price, or whether that's our ability to engage with customers and let them play and try and discover many of the great merchandise we have. And what we find is when customers are able to touch product, they become emotionally connected with it. And that allows them to walk away with not only the product, but with an ability to understand how best to use those products. And also within our loyalty program. So we launched a brand new loyalty program, and it's called Organize Insider, and it's really been a fantastic program to reward our customers with their level of engagement. So our first pillar is really around kind of deepening the relationship with our customers, and we did that through product, we did that through loyalty, we did that through an element of discovery in our services. And it was actually quite natural for us to deliver on it, but it was focusing our efforts on those things that helped us propel our success and to really win with the customer. The second pillar that we have that we've also been focused on is around expanding our reach. How can we become more accessible to our customers? And we do that, in a few ways. One is through opening stores. So we've just opened our small format store in Colorado Springs. It's around 12,000 square feet in size, and it's doing incredibly well for us. And as I mentioned earlier, we plan to open, more north of 70 stores. We have a potential to open over 100 actually. And so we're excited about bringing the Container Store to a lot of new customers out there who can't necessarily discover us in a brick and mortar format. And we've invested heavily with our e-commerce business as well. We launched a brand new app, and it's doing 7% of our sales now. And again, it's a relatively new app, and it's doing incredibly well. And we're expanding our reach with our customers through our custom closet business. And that, I think, has been incredible. We do very well with our metal-based system, as I mentioned, Alpha. And as we were doing a lot of research, understanding the size of the prize, we realized that the custom closet, custom space business is about $6 billion of addressable market. And we were playing in the under $2,000 space with our Alpha line, but that only represents about 15% in value of that 6 billion market. So we were missing out on a lion's share of potential out there in a very fragmented sector. So we've gotten really focused then around our custom space business, in particular around our premium spaces, whether that's Avera and now with Preston. And then the third pillar we have is around strengthening our capabilities. And that's, I would say, is really just operating more efficiently, delivering a better customer experience, becoming really profitable about the way we go look at growth and how we achieve that growth in profitable ways, hiring the right talent so that we can continue to strengthen the back-end operations and focusing on DE&I and ESG. So those three pillars, even though there's a lot of kind of sub-bullets to those three pillars, has allowed the company to stay focused in terms of what we're doing. We talk about it and report on it at every meeting that we have, but also allows us to make sure we've got the resources allocated in the right possible way as well.
So a couple of quick questions. One's more, I guess, tactical in a way, but I think we all know, any of us have tried to drive transformation initiatives at companies that, sometimes there's a lot of resistance to change. Did you find that? And if so, how did you overcome it?
I get that question a lot, actually, especially coming as an outsider, not in the world of storage organization, and in particular, not coming from within the company. And I actually found that a vast majority of the store personnel and at the home office, which we call the support center, really were hungry for us to become the best version of ourselves. They loved where they were, but they knew they could do so much more. And I think they were just looking for someone to focus the company on those three strategic pillars and providing the resources necessary to unlock this potential growth that they all knew was there, and they just needed someone to kind of with the key to unlock it. And I was fortunate enough to come in at a time where a lot of my predecessors had stabilized the company, and we paid off a lot of debt. We had a great balance sheet, we had a great P&L model, and they took the company to a fantastic place that I was able to just kind of then grow from it. They had great bones on the company. I essentially just added the meat to it. And for the most part, I would say that there was a lot of enthusiasm around where we were going, whether that was in our product assortment and discovery, or just within the expansion of custom spaces.
Sure. Interesting. So I have to ask you, I don't know if it's a little bit of the elephant in the room, but there have been a number of businesses, I guess we all know by now, that there were a number of businesses that really benefited, which sounds like a weird thing to say from COVID, but given that certain categories like the home performed disproportionately well during the heart of the pandemic, and many of them are now starting to, and I'm thinking about Wayfair, Peloton, some others that are starting to experience trouble. How do you know how much of this success is driven by kind of macroeconomic external factors versus kind of the inherent changes you're making? And is that even a fair question?
It's absolutely a fair question. I'm not sure I can quantify it. What I can tell you is this. There is an inherent need for customers to find a way to make sense of all of the chaos that's out there. The world is it's getting more and more chaotic, not less. There's a lot more stress out there, and customers are looking for ways to kind of declutter and de-stress and to have some sense of control with what they can control. Now, maybe that got heightened during the pandemic, but I think it's actually an ongoing concern out there where customers are just trying to, do the best that they can in the environment they're in, whether that's in the pandemic or now in a recessionary environment or even a growth environment, is how do I make the most of what I'm doing here? And I think what we offer our customers is an answer in any of those environments. Now, there's no doubt the customers were paying far more attention to their homes because they were trapped in their homes, and they start looking at spaces in a whole new way. They had to find multi-uses for their spaces. They needed an office for work. They needed a space for their children to be able to do their homework or schoolwork. But yet they also needed a space for entertaining their own family members, internal family members or whatnot. And we provide all of that. But if you take a step back and you look at the success, for example, the Home Edit has had, or Marie Kondo, in providing customers with answers to, bring joy into their life, that's universal. That's an everyday desire that customers have. And I think that's where we get to play in. We're able to come in and help customers truly, as I mentioned, transform their lives because we've got the tools necessary to do that. And customers are hungry for that. They're like, I want my pantry to be organized, but I don't know how to do it. I'm like, well, we can help you. Not only do we have in-home organizing services that can come in and help you do it, but they can also teach you how to stay organized with the right product so that you're not overspending especially in today's environment where groceries are super expensive, how do you make those groceries last? How do you make sure they don't spoil? Putting them in airtight containers. How do you ensure that you've got the right labeling on your product so that you actually know what you need to replenish? I mean, before I came to the Container Store, I would, my wife and I would go to Costco and we'd buy a lot of product. And I would, because it was on sale, I would just buy more than what I need. I didn't realize that I had, that I use the example of batteries when I was moving from California to Dallas and I was boxing my office up. I probably had 10 years worth of batteries because every time I'd go in, it was on sale and I'd buy it. And I was like, well, if I was organized, right, I would know I wouldn't need batteries. And it's how true is that for all of us, right? Like we end up buying thinking we're saving. And quite frankly, we end up, wasting because we overbuy. Or we waste time because you're trying to find the things you're looking for. If you have an organized garage or pantry and office, how quickly are you able to, find the things you're looking for so you're not wasting time? And it just provides a sense of clarity and focus that allows you to take on your everyday duties. If we had a camera on, you'd see it be sitting in my home office and it's very well organized. And it's not just
this
for
is
the show.
That we don't have a camera on because Ryan is very much in need of a trip to the Container Store.
Yeah, you'd be very impressed. But what and by the way, you can go to my pantry and you'll see the same thing. And that is that the day that it was organized a year and a half ago, it is as organized today as that first day because we were able to maintain the system. We learned a system and everybody in the house, from myself, my wife, my son, my daughter, we all maintain the system.
Well, you're a fantastic ambassador for the brand. I wanted to talk about lessons that you brought over from your last retail experience. I mean, it's a different group of cats, right? Prestige vendors, prestige beauty vendors are a different zone. You've got celebrity, you got high touch fashion. Talk about what you brought over from Sephora that you're applying with rigor at the Container Store.
Yeah, there's two elements. To just a very simplified 21 years of Sephora. Two elements I brought over to the Container Store. One is understanding the customer. And so as we interact with the customer, whether it's in the US or in Mexico or Brazil and in Canada, each customer interacts with the category in a very different way, even though the category is the same. So makeup, beauty is the same, skincare is the same category across all, but the interaction is very different. And what I learned is this, that, it's really important that while you can have a breadth of assortment and be really deep and narrow in a particular category, to ensure that you don't overwhelm customers with choice. Customers can easily fall into a cognitive meltdown moment because you've provided too much choice. And it becomes that much important to then ensure that you've got specialists in the store that are able to engage with customers and help them narrow down their choices so they find the right product that they're looking for and feel good about that purchase and then can take that purchase home and actually realize the dream. I can't tell you how many situations we would have within the world of makeup where customers would come in and buy, trying to achieve a smoky eye. They buy all the products necessary for it. They go home and they're like, can't really achieve that look. And now I'm disappointed with my purchase and the experience, because they couldn't achieve that look. And so similarly, I think within the Container Store, while we've got 10,000 SKUs dedicated towards storage and organization, how we narrow that down, provide through our either through our filtering on the website, recommendations, or more importantly, our specialists in the stores, and really help customers achieve what the goals for their projects, and can really then celebrate what they took home. So that was one area. I think the other area, which is equally as important, is around education. And what I find is there is a significant amount of, there's a lack of awareness. Now, whether in particular within beauty, it's around skincare. Folks are more well-versed within makeup. It's a easier purchase to make. You can always buy a lipstick or a lip liner, eyeliner, and achieve the look, and as long as you don't get too complicated with your smoky eyes or strobing, but you can quickly get that great lip. But when it comes to skincare, it's a lot more engaging of a category, right? You're looking at a cleanser, you're looking at a moisturizer, you're looking at
anti-aging or whatever,
elasticity.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a lot that goes into it. And, customers are fearful of engaging because they don't want to make the wrong product choice. And what I find is that when it comes to storage and organization at the Container Store, there is a considerable amount of folks out there who just don't understand how organization can really be a liberating experience for them, whether at home or in their offices or in their own businesses. Think of a cafe or any other business that might be out there, a restaurant for that matter, and how organization can actually help them achieve their goals. And that's where I think we can do a much better job of helping customers discover how organization can help. And it could be a very small step. You take one step and you're organizing your undersink or that junk drawer, and that leads you to organizing your next drawer. And then before you know it, you just feel more kind of put together. You're like, okay, I can take on now. Whatever is out there, I can do it. I can I give you a great example. I'm not a handyman at all. Okay. But it doesn't mean I don't have desires to do, a project from time to time.
Sure.
But anytime I'd go to even attempt to take a project on, a small project, I couldn't find my tools.
Right.
I was like, I don't know where my tools are. I don't use them on a regular basis. And so then I'm spending 45 minutes to find the tools I need. And then by then I've lost that inertia, that momentum to actually go ahead and do the task. I'm like, it's done now. I have limited time, to start off with. Now in my garage, I have a pegboard, an alpha pegboard. I have all my tools displayed. It's very easy. If I'm trying to find a hammer, a screwdriver, a flat screw, a drill bit, tape measure, whatever I need, I know exactly where I need to go. And then I'm able actually to now, fulfill that task at hand. That's not something I would have done before the Container Store. Not at all.
Well, I tell you, I'm inspired. I think I want to hit the pause button and go organize my under sink, because I was looking at it yesterday. It was a mess.
So Satish, it looks like we're going into more challenging times economically, and of course that can put pressure on consumers' desire to spend and how they spend and all those kinds of things. How is this affecting your plans, if it's affecting them? Are there any lessons in terms of the way you approach it that members of our audience might also think about and take away from this conversation?
There's no doubt that the current environment, which is first and foremost, you need to understand, is Fed-led, right? So the Fed is bringing about a desired slowdown in the economy. And so you need to understand the macro headwinds and where they're coming from, because it allows you to understand then what is your playbook. What do you end up doing? And so if it's Fed-led and it's largely due to, inflationary pressures and rising interest rates, that's essentially out of your control. So what you try to do is you look at, okay, in this environment where, customers are really thinking with their pocketbook, how you might be able to engage with them. So the ways that we look at this is very simple. First and foremost, how can we provide value to our customers during this time period? And that value could be making sure that they fully understand the projects that they're embarking upon and how we can simplify that project for them, and they can really get the most out of their dollars that are being spent. Value could also be in the place of, look, we offer interest-free financing on many of our projects, and that's interest that we pay for the customer, and making sure that they're aware and they can tap into that as well. Could also be value in associates of, if you spend more, you get to save more, so you get to take more dollars home with you. That's one component of it. The second component of it is coming back to our path to 2 billion, our desires to double the size, the revenue of our business. It is if we've said that a couple of key components to that growth is around our custom space business and our new store growth and our e-commerce business. And so what we are doing in this time period is reallocating our expenses, reallocating our capital endeavor to support those growth initiatives. So my advice to listeners out there is, don't be shy in an area where we're moving into a recession. Be bold enough and have the conviction to invest in those areas that are going to drive growth May not be at this very moment in time, but it will be when you get out of the recession, so that you're actually further ahead. I think if you end up kind of, either one being playing status quo or pulling back in key areas of growth, I think you'll end up paying the price of that later. And I think that would be a missed opportunity. So we know custom spaces for us is big. It's a big part of our growth. And we're investing. We continue to invest there. We may pull back in other areas that we don't believe that are nice to haves and that won't perhaps give us the same amount of growth as our custom space business. And that's fine. So then we'll pull back in that or reallocate those resources into areas we know will get far more growth. So that's what I would say is you don't have to shy away just because we're in turbulent times. You brace for impact, but be smart around the choices you make. And those choices should be in areas that are either providing a meaningful difference in the customer's experience and are providing growth opportunities, meaningful growth opportunities in the future. You put those two together, I think that's a winning proposition.
Well, I think that's a great place to leave it. Thanks so much for joining us. So many exciting things going on. It sounds like, I know many of our listeners already enjoy and experience the Container Store. Sounds like many more of them will get to enjoy that experience in the future. So thanks so much for joining us. Wish you a happy holiday and a great 2023. And thanks for coming on the Remarkable Retail Podcast.
Absolutely. My pleasure. Thank you, Steve and Michael.
If you like what you heard, please follow us on Apple, Spotify, your favorite podcast platform, so you can catch up with all our great interviews, including Hal Lawton talking about Tractor Supply's remarkable Life Out Here growth story. New episodes of Season 5, presented by Market Dial, will show up each and every Tuesday, and be sure to tell your friends and colleagues in the retail industry all about us.
And I'm Steve Dennis, author of the best-selling book, Remarkable Retail, How to Win and Keep Customers in the Age of Disruption. You can learn more about me, my consulting, and keynote speaking at StephenPDennis.com.
And I'm Michael LeBlanc, consumer retail growth consultant, keynote speaker, and producer and host of a series of retail trade podcasts, including this one. You can learn even more about me on LinkedIn, and you can catch up with Steve and I in person at the NRF Big Show in New York, January 16th on the stage, talking about what it takes to be remarkable with Container Store SVP Gretchen Gans. See you in New York, everyone.